Welcome to United We Spay, the show dedicated to promoting affordable spay-neuter services nationwide. Each episode delves into the heart of the movement, sharing inspiring stories and driving positive change. Our goal is to raise awareness, educate, and empower, addressing overpopulation's root causes to ensure every animal has a chance for a better life. Hosted by Stacy LeBaron and the United Spay Alliance team, we're on a mission to change lives. Fed up with the fixation on symptoms in the animal welfare conversation, it's time to change the narrative. Join us on United We Spay, where we make a difference by spreading knowledge and building a compassionate world for animals. Let's put prevention first and spotlight spay-neuter in the animal welfare space.
You're listening to United We Spay, a podcast from United Spay Alliance. United Spay Alliance works to promote accessible, affordable, and timely spay-neuter services, because an ounce of prevention today can prevent untold suffering tomorrow. Spay-neuter, it's public health for pets. I am Stacy LeBaron, United Spay Alliance board member and host of the show. Today on United We Spay, we are talking to Steve Tennant. Steve is a longtime local animal advocate in Brooke County, West Virginia. He was instrumental in having a new animal shelter built in the county and changing the culture of animal welfare in the county. He also spent the summer of 2007 driving weekly to a central West Virginia high-kill gas chamber, taking dogs and cats for adoption and rescue. This led to becoming a vocal advocate for the gas chamber ban in West Virginia. No gas chambers anymore. As far as spay-neuter is concerned, that is, and probably will always be, top of the mind for anyone involved in animal welfare. It is the only real solution to animal overpopulation and has been proven in West Virginia to be cheaper than euthanasia. Stephen serves on the board of directors of the Federation of Humane Organizations for West Virginia. Steve, I'd like to welcome you to the show.
Thank you, Stacy. I appreciate having the opportunity to be here.
Well, you seem to be a passionate fan about spay-neuter through lots of struggle. It sounds like over the 25 plus years you've been involved in animal welfare. But tell me more. How did you get to be so passionate about spay-neuter? Is there a single story or an animal that stands out to you?
Well, it's not just one. I had people calling me and telling me about this place down there in central West Virginia. And it was one of 5 gas chamber shelters in West Virginia. And so I started going down there and doing that and getting those animals out of there. And I guess the folks at the Federation of Humane Organization were at the same time, besides advocating and working tirelessly for spay-neuter, we're also trying to get rid of the gas chambers in West Virginia. So they contacted me. The lady that was the president at that time she was from up here in the panhandle, the northern panhandle of West Virginia, like me. And it just kind of evolved. I got involved with FOHO. They asked me to be on their board, and we worked, and we were able to get rid of the gas chambers. And then that kind of freed up everybody's time to devote to getting this spay-neuter concept that we had for the state of West Virginia up and running.
Yeah, tell me a little bit more about the Federation. How did it get started, and what sort of programs does it run?
Well, it started in 1993. There was a conference held here in the Northern Panhandle down in Wheeling, and folks came from all over the state of West Virginia. I guess it was really surprising. The folks who actually put this on were surprised at the number of people who turned out, because we are up in the northern part of the state. And if you've traveled around West Virginia, and it's up and down and around a lot of bends and curves, and not easy to get places here in the state. Beautiful, beautiful country to be driving around in, but not easy to get to. And so the conference down there spawned the organization, the Federation of Humane Organizations, and with the idea starting a statewide spay-neuter program. Kind of, I think Maine was the first state that had that spay-neuter statewide program. And they had this idea that these folks, I wasn't involved at that time, but of getting that sort of a program going here in West Virginia. And it was a long haul. I mean, we would go to the state legislature, the sessions every year, and talk with anybody that would talk with us about spay neuter. And we were down there enough times that we could walk into an office. Some of the folks, I mean, we're talking about grassroots lobbying. They knew us by name and they knew why we were there. But it took a while. And finally, around 2012, 2013, and this is kind of how things work. I'm sure West Virginia is not the only place that this kind of stuff happens, but they passed a bill or law that would form the spay neuter program here in West Virginia through the Department of Agriculture. And as good as that sounds, in their infinite wisdom, they didn't fund it. So we had a program on the books. We had a group that was appointed by the Department of Agriculture, the commissioner there, to write the rules. We wrote the rules. The legislature passed the rules into law, and still no money. So it comes 2017, the politics changed a little bit here in West Virginia. We had a new ag commissioner. And he talked with Sis Bruner, who is the president of FOHO now, and said, well, explain this program to me. And she, as much as she could. And he says, well, give me a white paper on it. So Sis has all the knowledge. I mean, she should write a book really on spay neuter, but she wrote this white paper. The Commissioner of Agriculture was impressed. And he said, I want this to be part of my department. And so he went to bat for us in getting funding. And when you're dealing with politicians, and you can't be in the Capitol building every day and talking to the people that you have to talk to, but he's there. And so he was able to get the funding for the program. And we figured with the concept we had of the amount of money that would be necessary was around $900,000 a year. The legislature or the Senate it was actually the Senate. It came back and they told us, we'll give you $450,000, take it or leave it. So that was a start. And that funded the program. 2018, the program was officially started, and it has grown by leaps and bounds. We had, I think, organizations in 2018 that participated. We had requests for over $1 million. We only had $450,000. But the committee that's in charge of that got the money out, and we've been kind of just rolling along since then. So the numbers have doubled. We're up to about we're over 85,000 animals that have been spayed or neutered so far in West Virginia, and that's just in 7 years. So the program's working. It's no longer a concept. It's a viable program that we can prove, and we have proven that it works. And so it's just money is the mother's milk of anything involved in animal welfare.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, you said that the funding started out initially at $450,000, where you felt like the need was $900,000. Where actually is that money coming from? Is it a license plate? Is it a checkoff on a tax return? Is it a pet charge on pet food? Or how is that money derived?
Well, here in West Virginia, and we're still at $450,000, there is a surcharge. The pet food industry pays the Department of Agriculture to sell their products in the state of West Virginia, because that charge is ostensibly to okay the, they do lab testing and that sort of thing with that money is used for. And there was a surcharge put on that fee that they already paid to the state of West Virginia. And even if they passed it on to the people of West Virginia, the surcharge, it would be pennies on the dollar. So we've managed to run this program without a state money, no taxpayer money involved, and it's worked.
Yeah. So the program reimburses veterinarians, or you issue vouchers? How does it actually operate?
It's a voucher program, and it is through the West Virginia Department of Agriculture. You submit a request or apply for it's actually a grant, but you do that early in January. And then the grantees are notified sometime in February. And the money is actually paid directly from the Department of Agriculture to the veterinarians or the spay neuter clinics that are participating.
Very interesting. How do you as a program evaluate the success of the program? Are you seeing a reduction in the number of cats and dogs going into shelters, or are you seeing a reduction in the number of complaints with animal control? How are you measuring your impact?
Well, we're fortunate that our State Board of Veterinary Medicine works with us, and they supply us with information that we could get, but it would take us a long time to get from the different shelters, different counties, and that sort of thing. But they have that access to all that information, and they work with the Department of Agriculture and work with FOHO to make sure that that information is available to us. And the shelter intake numbers here in West Virginia are down. And like I said, we've done over 85,000 animals. And that we figured 11,000 animals for 10 years would get us to where we would have a manageable number. I don't think you're ever going to see an end game.
Right. It's maintenance. Yes. I call it maintenance level, getting to that maintenance level. Yeah.
Exactly. And so we're on track for that.
That's great. That's awesome. I mean, that's very exciting. Every extra spay or neuter means fewer animals entering shelters and more lives saved. That's why United Spay Alliance partners with local organizations to host hands-on surgical training for veterinarians, so communities can expand their capacity to help. We bring the tools, resources, and support. You bring the local connections. Together, we train vets, strengthen networks, and save lives. Interested in hosting a training in your community? Learn more about our wet lab training program at unitedspayalliance.org or email info@unitedspayalliance.org. West Virginia's a pretty rural state. Are there challenges with regards to getting the voucher opportunities out into the rural areas?
Well, we had over 85 organizations apply for grants for this program 2025. And that covers a lot of the area of West Virginia. There's hardly any areas. Now, we do have a few areas in the state where there are no vets. That's the challenge. We don't have enough veterinarians, but we do have dedicated people who will do the 2 and 3 hour drives to these spay neuter clinics. We have 7 of them here in the state and dispersed throughout the state. So that is a challenge, but people are stepping up. And that's one thing we tell people, and people know this, that you get involved in animal welfare, it's long term. You're going to be involved for a long time. And so we're real fortunate here in West Virginia.
One other thing that I hear frequently from the programs up in New England is, well, you're all a small state. Now, West Virginia is also small. Do you think something like this is possible at a larger scale?
Well, when we first got started with this, I'm not a real big fan of all the big national organizations because I think their agendas aren't our agendas. But we had a fellow from the ASPCA, his name was Michael Barrett, who managed a program in New York City. We're 1.5 million people here in West Virginia. And I don't know what New York City is now. So, yeah, you can do this in a large, but you got to have people and you got to have resources.
And the scale is probably comparable. So what you do for 1 million people, you do it for 10 million, and you have to times most of your statistics and your budgets, add another 0 on the end of it, and you're not going to be that far off, probably.
No, absolutely not. And we, like I said, we're just so everybody likes to take shots at West Virginia. But I'm going to tell you, you get West Virginians involved in something, and something that's good and something that's really needed. And there's not going to be any place in this country that will tackle it any quicker or any better than what we do.
Are there any differences between spaying and neutering cats versus dogs in your region?
Well, obviously, there's just more cats, period. And you do have people that are doing TNR programs and that are taking advantage of this program. So a lot more cats being done than dogs. And you just don't see the dogs running loose, and you just don't have the numbers out there like you do with cats. And another thing about here in West Virginia is you cannot adopt an animal from a shelter in West Virginia or a rescue unless that animal is spayed or neutered. And that's a separate program that's operated by those shelters and stuff, not part of this program. So that does help cut down on numbers.
Yeah. No, that's great. Spay neuter before adoption is definitely a must-have and a requirement. United Spay Alliance board member Peter Marsh many years ago did research on shelters that adopted out cats and dogs that were not spayed neutered and the impact that was felt within the community versus having already sterilized animals going out as adoptable animals into the community. So it's great to have that type of legislation out there and requirement that the organizations do that, because sometimes, even with the voucher program, sometimes folks won't use the vouchers. So that's a challenge there. And we want to ensure at the adoption source that we're not running into that issue. What are the challenges facing West Virginia going ahead and looking at spay-neuter needs across the state going forward?
Well, funding obviously would be number one. I don't know that without funding, you don't have a program. When this program was initially funded, they did put a sunset provision into the law. We worked, and when I say we, I mean people, FOHO, and the people who were actually getting grants. We brought everybody that we could to Charleston this past session, and it was hard. But we got that sunset provision removed. So we're good. Our program doesn't end in 2027, but the $450,000, nothing stays the same cost-wise, and we're operating with the same $450,000 today that we were operating, 7 years ago. So that is the big challenge, and we've been very fortunate. We started the program with the idea of $900,000. We have an anonymous donor who has given the state over $4 million for spay neuter. They liked what they saw. They liked what we were doing, and they saw a program that was working. So that will keep us going through 2027, fully funded with the $900,000. And when that number jumped up, when that money became available, the number of animals, it was proportionate. I mean, the money jumped up, the numbers jumped up.
Wow, that's an incredible opportunity and really wonderful, because the organization that you're on the board of seems like it's very grassroots. You don't have a lot of overhead in terms of managing the program and the nonprofit. So yes, there's lots of involvement. There's administrative costs, but you definitely don't seem like an organization that is taking a lot of money out where most of the money is going for spaying and neutering the cats and dogs.
It's administered through the Department of Agriculture. These grants were given to FOHO, and FOHO passed that money on to the Department of Agriculture. But yeah, we are a very grassroots. And when I see Teresa Bruner, the president, I just shake my head, because we're just a small group, and just the passion that everybody has, and that we've been able to make this, to do this. And it's just really, it is phenomenal. And I'm not just saying that because I'm just a grunt, but just to be a small part of this it's really phenomenal.
It sounds wonderful. I mean, it sounds like it's a great place to be, to have this as an opportunity for families and residents in West Virginia. If folks had one takeaway from listening to our conversation today, what should it be?
Well, I guess the one thing is, this is a worthwhile thing. Animal welfare, there's just so many different aspects of it, and everybody has different ideas, and sometimes animal welfare people are their own worst enemies. But to get involved in something like this with spay neutering, something that you can actually see that you're making a difference in, you're saving taxpayer money, you're saving animals' lives. It's a win-win situation and very rewarding. There's no financial rewards to it, obviously, but very rewarding. And if you really wanted to do something with your life and make a difference, animal welfare is certainly a way to go.
Fix for life means preventing suffering before it starts. United Spay Alliance works to make spay-neuter accessible for all. Visit unitedspayalliance.org. Now, if there are folks out there listening in a different state and they were like, wow, this sounds great, how can I find out more about the work that they've been doing in West Virginia? How would they contact you and various other members of the Federation of Humane Organizations, West Virginia?
Well, our website is FOHO WV, FOHOWV.org. There is, of course, the history of the organizations on there. There is all kinds of information, statistics, and there's different, you say, well, how did you come up with this? How did you come up with that? But there's different ways that you can come up with the information that's on that website that you can apply locally as far as your numbers of animals and that sort of thing. But it's FOHOWV.org. The West Virginia Spay Neuter program through the Department of Agriculture. Just bring up the West Virginia Department of Agriculture, and there's a link there, West Virginia Spay Neuter program, which is also on the FOHO website. And then, of course, we have a Facebook page, too. So everybody has to have a Facebook page, I guess. So there's 3 different ways there that you can get any kind of information. And if you wanted somebody to get back to you, you can leave the information there. And we're always glad to talk to people about spay neuter and what's going on in other places.
Thank you so much, Steve, for joining us today. And thank you all for listening. If you liked this episode, be sure to share and subscribe. We release a new episode every month highlighting important conversations and inspirational stories from the spay-neuter movement in the United States and around the world. Find more resources for spay-neuter and learn more about our work at unitedspayalliance.org. Get in touch with us anytime at info@unitedspayalliance.org. Until next time.